Okay, everyone, you've just going to hear from our lovely friend Richard Tubb and Stephen McCormick from London. My name is Pascal Fintoni. I have the immense pleasure of being part of Team Tubb as a content strategist. And I saw some tweets on the Twitter that our two international men and mystery are having a wonderful time in London. So hello to Richard and Stephen.
Oh, thank you, Pascal. So we're here at ChannelSec in London, and it's quite a big security conference. It's aimed at managed service providers and IT solution providers in the channel, as the clue would give away, and it's all focused around cyber security. So in terms of attendance here, we're at the Royal Lancaster Hotel. There was 300 MSPs registered, and we guessed, didn't we, Stephen, probably about 100 MSPs in attendance, which is not unusual nowadays. Drop out in terms of people who register and don't come along to events. But I feel like the event had a good vibe, didn't it? There was lots going on.
It did, yes. And I mean, we've picked a perfect day as well. It's been an absolutely gloriously beautiful day. And we've seen loads of MSPs, vendors. We had some great speakers. And of course, it was all kicked off by England rugby legend Will Greenwood, wasn't it?
So Will Greenwood, who is arguably one of England's greatest ever rugby players. So he kicked it off, and you're asking, well, what has Will Greenwood got to do with cybersecurity? Well, he was giving us a keynote presentation on high-performing teams. It was fascinating. He's an incredibly funny fellow, so it was a great way to get the day started. But Will Greenwood, actually, people don't know, he's involved in an artificial intelligence customer service company. So customer service, an AI to augment that. So he knows a little bit about the technology sphere. But as I said, really funny guy. And he did it was pretty much a warm-up act there. So he got us to all stand up early on and go to a random person who we didn't know and introduce ourselves. And this is not too unusual for events. But of course, in the IT industry, a lot of people would prefer to talk to computers rather than human beings. So it really did break the ice. And personally, I met Greg Wright, who's the MD of Neos IT, an MSP in London. Who did you meet, Stephen? Can you recall?
I met several individuals. It's so weird in these spaces. You kind of see the same faces, but it is actually nice to go and meet somebody new. Now I met a lady called Rami, and she's also involved in the kind of PR side of things, and so so we're going to follow up later next week, and there's a lady called Emily who was very interested in peer groups that I'm going to be speaking more to as well.
So it was really interesting. So we'll get started with that, and that was only, Pascal, it only took sort of 3 minutes, people standing up and sort of chatting to people, and Will had a hard job then regaining the audience and saying, okay, settle down, people, I want to talk to you. In fact, he, as I said, he was a really funny guy throughout, but there was a lot of really good value from his presentation. So we said, like, typically people, when you ask them, how are you doing, they will say, yeah, I'm okay, or I'm busy. And he was like, ask again. No, how are you really? Because people then realize you're not just exchanging pleasantries, you actually want to know about them, which I thought was really interesting. And some of the other nuggets I took from his session were he was talking about within the AI organization that he works within, they don't believe in best practices. In fact, he says best practice doesn't exist. He said, but what you should be doing is striving for better practice, which I quite like there, because we all know you're never going to finish your business. You're never going to perfect it. But if you're always striving for better practice, I like that as well. But for me, the biggest takeaway, and I know this is a bit of a sound bite, but he said, don't treat people as you would like to be treated. Treat people as they would like to be treated. And in this age, we're learning a lot about neurodivergency and things of that nature. I thought that was really interesting, and so I made a note of that as well. And then Will went on, and again, this was just an opening 20-minute session, Pascal. So you can see it was packed full of value and very entertaining as well. He talked a little bit about the work they've done with the Royal Marines and how he learned from the Royal Marines to do an immediate post-mortem. Even if you win. So whether you're putting an event on, whether you're running a webinar, whatever it might be, sporting teams, even if you win, spend 2 minutes afterwards for doing what they call in the Royal Marines as a hot debrief. So capture your thoughts, learn from it. And he said, this is super important. People can be very honest there. And the final bit of advice he gave, and he was already overrunning at this point, wasn't he, Stephen? But he was
full of really interesting stories, though, as well. And a lot of his experience come with very transferable skills, and there are all these values, and he actually related them all to things that he has transferred into his new business role, which I thought was great, so.
And so the final piece of advice he gave, Pascal, was to look outside of the IT industry. And to see what other people are doing, to adopt it, to tweak it, and to make it your own, which I'm really glad you said, because that really matches up with something that we've been saying at Team Tubb for quite some time. Don't just look in the IT industry, look well beyond it, because there is some really talented people out there, and some of the ideas that you can pick up outside the IT industry can be real gold, adopted and used within the IT industry. So big thumbs up from me for Will Greenwood. Did you enjoy him?
Oh, absolutely. He kind of hit the room's level at just that right, point to actually kick off a fantastic event, which was all about cyber security and cyber resilience. So I thought it was great to kind of start on that note where we're all on the same page, we're all focused, and he really got that room's energy up, I felt.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about, obviously, the event and the subject matter. What was the intention from the organizers and the sponsors? Is it because across all industry we need to do better faster? Is it because there's a sense of pride in terms of the industry and how much further on it is? What was the intention behind the event, do you think?
So the intention behind the event is a focus on security for managed service providers. So MSPs, of course, all MSPs have got to be concerned with security, but there's a lot of other things that MSPs need to do as well. They've got to be patching, they've got to be updating, they've got to be looking after clients' support requests, myriad sort of things. And I know as running an MSP myself in the past, but security is top of the importance list there, because it doesn't matter. You can be the best IT company in the world, but if your client gets breached, they're gonna throw the book at you. They're really going to blame you for it. So I think the idea behind the event, and I can't remember how many years this event has run. This is my first time at Channel Sec, but it is to put that focus on talk of security. So yeah, it was really good. But as we found with Will Greenwood kicking things off, the organisers wanted to get things off to a good start with a well-known name and a warm startup, and he certainly did that.
Can I ask you, Stephen, in terms of, I was looking at the agenda for today, and I had some serious case of FOMO when I saw this session on 30 years of cybercrime in 30 minutes. Did you have a chance to listen to and watch that one, Stephen?
So yeah, I mean, so a lot of the workshops that came after that, they were all focused around how we got to where we are now. So depending on whether we were talking about artificial intelligence or whether we were talking about the way that cyber crimes changed from just spamming and DDoS to more kind of focused spear phishing and malware, it's kind of evolved over the course of 40, 50 years, where it's no longer based on kind of anarchists in their bedrooms. It's actually organized kind of almost syndicates now that are actually pushing out these very hard to spot kind of malware, and it's become such big business now. The speaker on the day, Graham Cluley, he actually knew that it's kind of easy to kind of see it all as this kind of faceless hoodie wearing kind of hacker that we see in films, and I know you will appreciate this one, Pascal, but it's actually more like they are corporations now. They are they are focused on generating income, and they're very hard to catch and make accountable. So yeah, it was really, really interesting.
And Graham early on, and for anybody not familiar with security blogger, Graham Cluley is a legend in the industry. He was, again, a very engaging, very funny speaker. And he started off the session, Pascal. And for those of us of maybe a certain experience level in the IT industry or a certain amount of years, he was highlighting some of the early viruses and some of the early hacker crews and things of that nature. And of course, it was hilarious with hindsight to look. And he said, like, back when he, used to be involved in the early days of cybersecurity, they actually used to send out antivirus updates, to people for their antivirus packages. Once a quarter, they'd send a 5.25-inch floppy disk out once every 3 months. Here's the latest update. Now, if you were really security conscious, he said, you could subscribe and have it once a month. And of course, now there's millions of these things coming out, every single day. So it was a light-hearted start looking at where cybersecurity has come from and to where it is now. But as Stephen said, it's big business now. To make no mistake about it, these are not people sitting in bedrooms, doing it for anarchist reasons to prove a point or just because they're bored. This is big business with bad guys. And so it was a really good presentation from him.
This whole event is obviously a combination of keynotes, workshops, addresses, networking. But you guys were also busy, judging by all the evidence on Twitter in particular, content creating. And shout out to Team Tubb as well, because there are some videos that have been published right this afternoon that you recorded this morning. So there was some amazing turnaround. So, now shout out to the team. But yeah, what were you busy doing interviews? Were you busy kind of catching up with people for future?
Yeah, we spoke to a variety of people, didn't we?
We did.
Most of the mostly vendors. We spoke to a couple of MSPs early on in the day, and we published those. So we spoke to Paul Croker of 18 IT. He was talking about how he chooses his cybersecurity tools. Of course, you come to an event like this, there's hundreds of vendors and there's probably thousands of products. So how do you choose what's best? And we spoke to Theo Nell, as well, runs an MSP based in London. And Theo was saying, actually, more and more, him and his peers are leaning on the distributors such as Pax8 to get the advice they need about the right tools to deploy within their business. So rather than, looking to the whole market and everything, they're trusting people like Pax8 to actually to look to curate with a refined eye. These are the tools that MSPs need to be looking at. And so for me, that was a really important message to get out to MSPs, that distributors such as Pax8 are your partners. They're not just selling you a product. The value they're adding is they've gone through the best in class. They understand the products. They've built the relationships, and now the MSPs are ready to reap the rewards. So we did interviews, didn't we, with Mostyn Thomas, who's the senior director of security at Pax8. Mostyn was talking about the importance of not believing that you've just got to spend loads of money on cybersecurity. Of course, you can get great returns from it, but he said two-factor authentication, making sure things are patched, that type of thing is going to yield huge benefits. You're going to get to like 80% of mitigation efforts, and then you can start looking to some of the more advanced tools. But who else did we speak to, Stephen?
We spoke to Michael Breeze, also of Pax8, about what he's been doing, lots of masterclasses and things of that nature. Yeah. Jason Kelmsley of Uptime Solutions.
Yeah, you'll enjoy this one, Pascal. So Jason and the team at Uptime Solutions have recently, really recently in the past couple of weeks, introduced their own built. So this is proprietary. It's not, ChatGPT or OpenAI or anything. They've built an AI platform to triage incoming tickets from clients. So, and they've got it up already. I think he said a 93% success rate. So the first thing they said was when the ticket comes in, they want to use OpenAI to make sure that it gets routed to the right person, it gets given the attention it deserves. And they said, this is not going to replace humans, but it's going to speed up getting the right humans to look at the tickets at the right time. And they said anything below 75%, no, we're not going to accept it. But they've already, within a couple of weeks, got it up to a 93% rate. So that's probably, at this stage, higher than a human being sitting there and working out where those tickets are going to go. So that's really exciting for uptime partners to see AI used practically for good reasons, not just as a gimmick.
And of course, the more data that they feed this thing, the higher that the actual percentage is going to be. So it's very, very interesting. A lot of vendors seem to be going that way too. That's all about analyzing the data to see where they can save the ticket logger time, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Just to try and get those triaged quickly.
Yeah. We also, Pascal, I want to throw it out there because we had a brilliant conversation with Damon Giddings of Acronis. Now, Acronis is a name that a lot of people in the industry know, but perhaps they've got a bit of a perception problem because people think, oh yeah, they do a disk imaging tool. Oh, they do much, much more than that. And we heard Paul Croker and Theo now talking about this idea of vendor sprawl that MSPs are struggling with, where there's so many vendors, so many tools, so many dashboards for them to go, it can become a dangerous sort of situation for the MSPs and their clients. So Damon was talking about the amount of integrated tools that Acronis have got under one roof. And as you know, I've spent a lot of time with the Acronis team across in Florida and in Europe, and they are really knocking it out the park, making it super easy for MSPs to deploy and to use these tools because, a lot of us are geeks. We look at these things and go, oh, brilliant, a tool to hack around with. But actually, when it boils down to it, you want tools where you can press a button, the client is protected, and when something, if anything, does go wrong, it flags it to you in plain English and tells you, here's what we've done to keep you safe, or here's the next step that you need to take. And so Damon did a really good job of telling us about all the different things that Acronis are doing there. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, because he was really, he seemed very nervous before he went on camera, but do you know what? He did an absolutely fantastic job.
Yeah.
He was very clear, very he gave an absolutely fantastic interview, and I think I should shout that out because
because we act as a bit of a double act, don't we, Steve? We often go to these vendors and to these MSPs and say, hey, would you like to be on camera to talk about this? Great, here we are then, and stick the camera in their face before they have an opportunity to actually object, and before they know it, they're over. But of course, for anybody listening who is giggling at that or laughing at it and stuff, we're all experts in this, and so people perhaps sometimes can spend too much time thinking about what they want to say rather than just saying it off the cuff, and we try to encourage people to say things off the cuff.
Well, on that very point, that's the reason why we're starting those audio travel logs, just catch you. I know that I got a couple of WhatsApp messages. Well, what do you want us to say? I said, well, you just tell us what happened today. And I have to say, what a delight to hear how much you've enjoyed today, in your voices and so on. So, what's happening now? Are you wrapping up, and is it over? Is there more happening in the evening?
Well, there's the Channel Awards party tonight. So people here, they're wrapping up, but they're getting their tuxedos and posh frocks on to go to awards. But Steve and I, we were having a conversation with this, and I think this is a growing movement in the MSP industry. Maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's an experience thing. We said, we're going to skip out and we're going to go and join one of our good friends and clients, Robert Bohr of Keepable, and we're going to go down to a lovely restaurant in Borough Market. We're going to have a couple of pints in a local pub. We're going to sit down and have a quiet, lovely meal, and I won't say an early night, but a much quieter night than they're going to have here at the party. So call us names if you will, but there you go. That comes with experience, and we're going to wake up with a less sore head. And
workaholics, we are workaholics.
That's exactly what. That's the way we should have framed it.
Yeah. So
Final question for our listeners. So, Richard, you travelled from London. Stephen, you travelled from Birmingham. Who got to London first yesterday? Then
I travelled from Newcastle upon Tyne. So I was there was train work, so it took me 4 hours, but I got in at midday yesterday, and you got in.
I got in a little bit later, it's about 5 to 9. So
Yeah.
I was working through the day and then went at a quieter time, so I'd have a much quieter train.
Yeah, that's the universal rule that those who are the closest arrive the latest. That's just
exactly.
Well, any of our long-time listeners will know Stephen spends a lot of time going out to local groups and things. You've had some nightmare journeys. Like he has set out from Birmingham to get to Edinburgh and arrived like Shackleton or something, like 6 days later, I think it is.
I believe the train left at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and I got there for 10. So a 10-hour train journey. Yeah.
What we've learned in the industry, Pascal, is if you're going to catch a train somewhere, don't do it with Stephen because he's...
Don't catch the same train as me.
He's got basically.
4.
I think...
When it
It's probably there's a special Twitter account where we track where Stephen is traveling and people avoid the same confrontation and systems. Listen, thank you so much, the two of you, for giving us a quick update and sharing a bit more about what it felt like to be at that amazing event in London. And well, what do you think? That was first time for you to be on the other side of the interviewing desk, so to speak. You enjoyed it? Want to do that again?
Love it. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not at all. For our listeners, thank you very much for listening again. And let us know what you think of those auto travel logs. And don't be afraid as well to send questions to Stephen and Richard. But for now, you two have a lovely evening. You deserve it. And we catch you very soon.
Cheers.
Thank you, Pascal.
Hey team, this is Richard again. Just one more thing before you take off, and that is MSP Insights. Now, every Tuesday, I share my thoughts on the business of IT with you, the managed service community. Thousands of managed service providers already subscribe to MSP Insights. It's easy to sign up, easy to cancel. MSP Insights is basically a short email from me every Tuesday without fail with advice on growing your IT business, plus cool resources I've found, discovered, or started exploring that week. It's kind of like my diary of cool things and often includes articles or books I've read, tools I've discovered, and events I think you'd be interested in, often sent to me by my friends and Tubb Talk podcast guests. So if that sounds fun, a short tiny bite of MSP goodness every Tuesday, and you'd like to try it out, just go to go.tubb.co/Tuesday. That's go.tubb.co/Tuesday. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. Thanks for listening.